In this week's drive, we get tangled up with a world champion, fall down and get hit, take a walk on the wild side, and taste some Irish dirt. All this and more in this week's Drive. The time has come. The first round of an all-new racing series that everyone is saying is not a rival to Formula One, but everyone knows could easily become one. The brainchild of Sheikh Maktoum Hasha Al Maktoum, he explains what A1 Grand Prix is all about.
A1 Grand Prix is a World Cup of Motorsport, Grand Prix of Nations. 25 nations vying to become hold the World Cup of Motorsport in their hands, beating 25 nations, representing 80% of the world population. There are A1 cars, A1 engines, all the same, level playing field. The cars, I believe, are at the highest pinnacle of their ability with no driver aids. And it's a very exciting package.
I think the concept is very good. It's a winter series which nobody has yet. The car looks very interesting. So I think everything looks done very professionally.
At the end of the day, you're looking for similarities between the cars, and whoever wins is the best. So I think this is a great idea.
Sightseeing in London ahead of the first race. Team Great Britain will be racing on home ground. Normally, that would be an advantage, but not this time.
They have taken it away from us. They're trying to make it as big a equal playing field as possible. And so it is going to be more difficult than normal. But we've just got to work well with the team and to get the best out of the car and do the job out on the track.
No, it's great for me. Yeah. It all went in a really short time. They made a decision that we will do it, and all went really quick. I made the first test on Monday on Silverstone. The car is really nice to drive.
Yeah, it means a lot for me because, yeah, as you said, it's a very patriotic country, and I feel the same. I love Brazil. I love the people there, and it's just a lovely country, and they all support me a lot. And I'm going to try to exchange this by getting victories.
A lot of new, fresh ideas have been brought into motorsports by A1. Which is very fantastic. You know, it is going to change motorsports, and it's going to bring a lot of new fans to motorsports because of the country versus country aspect, and it's going to be great.
A1 Grand Prix, the World Cup of Motorsports, starts this weekend at Brands Hatch.
The reason I've asked you all to come here, including the drivers, is this is the first World Cup of Motorsport. And this is what everybody is here for.
The season will consist of 12 events across the Northern Hemisphere winter, and at each one, teams will compete for a prize fund of $1 million.
It's just incredible. I think, the organizers, they've really gone out on a limb, to get this to work. And yeah, for the drivers, for sure, it's a fantastic circuit. I think, Sheikh Maktoum and his team have chosen probably the best place in the world to start the calendar. It's a fantastic circuit. For the crowds as well, I believe it's sold out, so I'm looking forward. Hopefully it won't be typically English and wet, but you can't stop that.
Let's see how competitive we are, but I think we should be in the top 5 at least, and I think that's a good start. But we don't know. I mean, it's a different circuit. I've never been here, so it's a difficult circuit to learn. But we do our best to see how far we come.
Team USA topped the first practice session, but the second wet session saw Brazil on top. With qualifying times calculated as an aggregate of drivers' 2 best laps, Brazilian Nelson Piquet Jr., son of 3-time Formula One champion Nelson Sr., claimed pole position. Piquet's 3-time world champ father, who took pole position for the last British Grand Prix to be held at this same track way back in 1986, was present as the 20-year-old sealed the top slot ahead of New Zealand's Matt Halliday. New Zealand and Australia were proving that their intense sporting rivalry can translate to even the newest of sports, with the two countries trading times throughout the session. Australian Will Power took the early advantage before Halliday took New Zealand into second place overall after the second segment. But the Antipodeans were split in the final segment by Frenchman Alexandre Premat, who won his country's drive over compatriot Nicolas Lapierre. Similarly, Will Power earned the Team Australia drive with a better time than Christian Jones, son of 1980 Formula One world champion Alan, who crashed heavily in his stint. There were high hopes for local British driver Robbie Kerr, who set the fastest time in the second segment, but his overall result was 5th on the grid. Under the A1 Grand Prix rules, qualifying position decides the starting order for Sunday's opening sprint race, with that event's result in turn deciding the grid for the feature event. Switzerland was 6th, Mexico 7th, Pakistan 8th, Malaysia 9th and Japan 10th, the top 10 covered by 1.9 seconds. The Russian car was slowest, over 10 seconds off the pace. British racing car manufacturer Lola has designed, built and engineered the 25 identical cars. The heart of the series is a 3.4-litre V8, 550 brake horsepower engine, especially designed by Zetec, which is already proving to be both sturdy and reliable. Race day at the historic track dawned dry for the rolling start for the sprint race. The 18-lap race would decide the grid positions for the feature race, the main event of the day. Brazilian Piquet Jr. started from pole after winning 2 of Saturday's 4 qualifying sessions. He won the first ever A1 Grand Prix event to pick up the first 10 championship points of the season. France's Premat claimed 2nd place ahead of New Zealand's Halliday in 3rd, Australia's Power in 4th and Britain's Kerr in 5th. Halliday stalled on the grid for the feature race though, and the New Zealander was forced to start from the pit lane. That meant that the Frenchman Premat moved up a place into 2nd, but he also stalled at the start and needed a push start as Piquet led away. Khalil Bashir of Team Lebanon ended his race in spectacular style on lap 17 of the 38-lap event. He edged into the side of Enrico Toccacello as the Team Italy driver tried to pass coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. The Lebanese driver somersaulted into the gravel trap where he was joined by an enraged Enrico. Bashir was unharmed in the crash and he began the long walk back to the pits to explain. The crash brought out the safety car and drivers headed to the pits for their mandatory stop. Piquet Jr. had a 10-second lead, but a disastrous pit stop dropped him to 3rd. Kerr edged ahead of Power coming out of the pits to take the lead, but his time at the front of the race was short-lived. Technical failure forced him to leave the track, and Kerr suffered a disappointing end to his day's racing. The action resumed when the safety car left the track, and Piquet Jr. reclaimed the lead with 10 laps to go, outpacing Power. The Brazilian stretched his lead to 2.4 seconds and picked up another 10 championship points. He also claimed a bonus point for recording the fastest lap of the race. Power held on to 2nd place, with Mexico's Salvador Duran 3rd.
I don't know what happened with Robbie. He had to stop for whatever reason, and my team told him to push very hard until the end, and I managed to overtake him, and it was something that I had never expected was going to happen. When I saw Will in front of me, I said, well, it's going to be a 2nd place, but I managed to do it. I don't know how.
With his no doubt immensely proud father looking on from below, Piquet Jr. took his position at the top of the podium. The young Brazilian also topped the championship standings with an early 5-point lead over Australian Power. Despite predictions that the rain would return, race day at Lausitzring near Dresden was sunny and dry. Jamie Green, starting from his first pole position, got steamrolled by the Opels at the beginning and his Mercedes dropped to 4th. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Manuel Reiter hurled their Opels to 1st and 2nd respectively, and Ekstrom had a good start up to 3rd in his Audi. On the first lap, Christian Abt spun his year-old Audi but kept going after contact with Ronaldo Capello. Gary Paffett got past Green for 4th and homed in on Ekstrom before they both pitted. Former double Formula One world champion Mika Häkkinen and Abt came to grief, although it was debatable as to who was the culprit, and they collided twice before Abt spun off and then started the long walk back to the pits. Paffett was still all over the back of Ekstrom's Audi, a scenario that would remain for the rest of the race as they fought tooth and nail every single lap. Then came Frentzen, who was being chased by the Mercedes of Jean Alesi. Pole sitter Green retired to the pits with a problem, and for the final stint of the race, all eyes were on the title rivals. Alesi, apparently fed up of the Opel in front, shunted Frentzen, earning a drive-through penalty for his efforts. Every lap, Paffett had a look down the inside of the first corner, but Ekstrom held him off. It was great driving by both of them. Paffett tried everything in his clearly faster Mercedes, but Ekstrom did an equally fine job of keeping him at bay. Behind them, Tom Christensen was third and Laurent Aiello was closing in, with Reuter not too far adrift. Ekstrom and Paffett stayed glued together all the way to the line, fighting all the way, but Ekstrom made it stick and took the checkered flag 0.4 of a second ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the race was very tough, and already from the beginning I had some small problems with my steering, and it was quite heavy, but I pushed as much as I could, and when I saw Gary in the mirror, I realized this will be one of the longest and hardest races of the year, and that happened as expected, and Gary was very, very close to me, and luckily I could stay in front, and the car was keeping the consistency the whole race, and very, very happy for this victory.
The last two races promised to be just as good. The DTM paddock now travels to Istanbul for the penultimate round. We go straight to Istanbul's brand new racetrack now for the World Touring Car Championship. And with 6 rounds remaining, every single point is crucial. Alfa Romeo occupied the first 4 places on the grid for round 15. Gabriele Tarquini starting from pole ahead of teammates James Thompson, Augusto Farfus and Fabrizio Giovanardi. Reigning champion Andy Priaulx went into the race trailing standings leader Dirk Müller by a single point. The Briton made a good start from 7th, squeezing between Stefano Telli of Monaco and Germany's Peter Terting and into 5th place. Giovanardi started as the top Alfa driver in the standings, and he took the lead from Tarquini on the 3rd lap. With the finish line looming, it looked like Alfa would claim the top 4 places. However, Tarquini's right front tyre blew on the 10th and final lap of the race. And the same fate befell Brazilian Farfus just seconds later. Priaulx profited from Alfa's misfortune, claiming 3rd place to take a 5-point lead at the top of the championship standings over Germany's Müller, who failed to pick up any points in that race. Giovanardi crossed the finishing line to consolidate his 3rd place in the standings, while Briton Thompson took 2nd place, 2.8 seconds off the pace. With 4 first-place finishes, Giovanardi has more wins than any other driver in this year's series. Having limped across the finishing line in 8th and 7th place respectively, Farfus and Tarquini sat on the front row of the grid for round 16. Both cars were patched up with tape after their blown tyres had caused damage to the right front wheel arches. Tarquini edged his way past pole sitter Farfus before the end of lap 1, accelerating up the inside and forcing his teammate wide at a corner. Giovanardi started from 8th place, but soon he was hunting down Alex Zanardi's BMW. Giovanardi's outbraking manoeuvre would have seen him leave the track had he not clipped Garcia, who was sent spinning onto the grass and out of the race. Zanardi kept 3rd place, taking advantage of Giovanardi's loss of momentum. Dirk Müller battled through the field after starting round 16 from 9th on the grid. He eased past Andy Priaulx before forcing Giovanardi to the outside and moving into 5th place. Farfus reclaimed the lead towards the end of the final lap, passing Tarquini on the same section of the Istanbul Park circuit where his Alfa Romeo teammate had overtaken him on lap 1. But team orders must have been hastily barked down the pit-to-car radio as Tarquini held the higher position in the standings and Farfus surrendered the lead to the Italian on the final straight. Tarquini crossed the line for his 2nd win of the season and Farfus settled for 2nd. Legless Alex Zanardi, who had won at Oschersleben in Germany, claimed 3rd place. Valencia in Spain hosts the next 2 rounds. The chase to the Cup got underway with a race of cool tyres and hot tempers. Kurt Busch started 12th of the 43-car field. He was running beside Scott Riggs when Riggs slid up into Busch and sent him into the outside wall. Busch got out of his car, strode straight to Riggs's pit, climbed up on the pit box and spoke to Riggs's crew chief. Then he got back into his car and finished 35th and last. The next multi-car accident happened on lap 146 when Jimmy Spencer and Rusty Wallace got together. Spencer got sent hard into the wall and was knocked out of the race.
On the right front, they may have to come in.
On lap 165, rookie Kyle Busch bumped Casey Kane, last year's top rookie, sending him hard into the wall.
On the bottom, looks like Kyle Busch is going to slide up into him. And that's exactly what happened.
Kane restarted his battered car and drove it slowly along the bottom of the track until Busch came by again. Kane then shot up the track, hitting Busch and stopping him dead. NASCAR officials parked Kane for the rest of the day after the incident. Under the yellow flag, Michael Waltrip hit Robbie Gordon, sending Gordon into the wall and spinning out Sterling Marlin. Gordon's car was totaled. Gordon got out of his car, waited for Waltrip to come around again and threw his helmet at him, hitting the car just below the driver's window. Later, he had less than kind words for Waltrip during a television interview.
Waltrip. You know, Michael, everybody thinks Michael's this good guy. He's not the good guy like he actually is. The caution was out, and he wrecked me.
With the race winding down, Ryan Newman decided to move up. Tony Stewart, in the lead for the 6th time, was in front of the field with 2 laps left, having led for 173 laps. Newman came up to Stewart's fender and passed him with the white flag in sight. Newman held on through the last 2 laps to win by 2 car lengths, his first victory in his last 35 races. Stewart leads the chase for the Cup from Biffle, and Newman lies third.
And I think he's going to get more of a challenge.
Italy's Loris Capirossi started in pole position for the MotoGP Grand Prix of Japan after breaking the Motegi track record in Saturday's qualifying session. But it was another Italian, Marco Melandri, who dominated early on. The Honda rider, in only his 2nd season in MotoGP, led for the first 12 laps of the race. But Marco's chance of a win ended on lap 13 when he was run into by world champion, countryman and good friend Valentino Rossi. Rossi, who'd started 11th on the grid, needed a top 4 finish to wrap up the championship. He passed 7 riders by lap 4, but ran into Melandri. Valentino later said that he wasn't even trying to pass at that point, but he and Melandri took very different lines and that he'd apologized to Marco. After the 13th lap, it became a 2-man race between Honda's Max Biaggi and Capirossi, with Capirossi taking the lead for good on the 19th lap. The Ducati rider claimed his first win of the season and the 3rd MotoGP victory of his career. It was the first time he'd won from pole position. Biaggi was second, 1.4 seconds behind, while Makoto Tamada of Japan was happy to finish 3rd in his home Grand Prix, saying he was only about 70% fit after his recent crash. With his win, Capirossi climbs to the top 6 in the championship.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy about today, but not only about today, because about all week we make the great job, start to Friday and Saturday. And today, for sure, for us, for all Ducati, Marlboro, Bridgestone, is a fantastic day, because, you know, especially Bridgestone make the great job for here, for Motegi, and the tire working quite good. We do a lot of consecutive laps, especially in the practice, for understand, and we see I have good rhythm.
In the 250 class, Aprilia rider Alex De Angelis and Spain's Jorge Lorenzo lost any chance of a podium finish when they crashed midway through the final lap while battling for 2nd place. Spain's Daniel Pedrosa, who leads the overall 250cc standings, narrowly avoided the incident. Pedrosa was well behind Japan's Hiroshi Ioma, who delighted his home fans by clinching his first Grand Prix win. Pedrosa was second, giving Honda a 1-2 finish, while Australian Casey Stoner came in 3rd. The title's beginning to open up, but Pedrosa can be beaten. Can the Australian teenager make the difference? There are still 125 points to be had. Finland's Mika Kallio won a crash-shortened 125cc race. He was leading with 6 laps to go when the race was red-flagged following a spectacular crash involving Switzerland's Thomas Luthi and Sergio Gadeo of Spain. Both riders escaped serious injury, although Luthi dislocated a shoulder. The final standings were decided on the last complete lap, giving Kallio the win ahead of Luthi and Spain's Hector Falbel. As usual, the 125 title is too close to call, but Luthi's injured shoulder comes at a bad time, with the next 2 races a week apart, Malaysia and Qatar. With the 2005 title in the bag, you might think that world motocross champion Stefan Everts would lift off a bit and give the others in the field a chance of a win. From the start, New Zealander Joshua Coppins jumped into an early lead. Just behind him, his countryman Ben Townley passed Estonian Tanil Liok. Soon Townley was chasing 8 times world champ Everts, who was chasing race leader Coppins. Everts seized the lead in the latter part of the race as the fast early pace seemed to take its toll on Joshua Coppens. He was then prey for Townley, who finished the race only a second behind Everts. Coppens held on to third place, 16 seconds behind, but only 7 ahead of Lioch. In the second race, Townley maintained his early momentum and forged into an early lead, quickly pulling out and disappearing, opening an advantage over the chasing pack of 18 seconds. Fellow Kiwi Coppens wasn't so lucky. After struggling in race 1, he pushed through to 5th before he crashed on the whoops on lap 4. He rejoined in 14th place and did well to get back up to 4th place. Lioch on the green Kawasaki was also trying to match his 4th place in race 1 and was soon charging through the field from a poor start, but he would end up 8th. In fact, Lioch briefly headed Coppens but couldn't keep the Kiwi behind him on the unforgiving track. Up front, the experience of the world champion soon prevailed, and Everts slowly reeled in Townley, eventually overtaking him and soaring into a massive 21-second lead to confirm his status as undoubtedly the best motocross rider of the modern era. Frenchman Michael Pichon's awful year was crowned when his bike caught fire. But Ireland was a fitting finale to a great season by Ben Townley, 3rd in the championship. The KTM rider leaves the Grand Prix scene for the American AMA 125 Nationals. The outdoor trials season ended with the Grand Prix of Belgium in Spa-Francorchamps. Adam Raga had already been crowned the outdoor champion. Raga won in Germany to seal his first outdoor title, to go with the 3 indoor titles that he's already claimed. The Spaniard finished his campaign with another win, although it wasn't a vintage display from the dominant force in world trials. Raga won with a total of 47 penalty points, but for once his rivals weren't too far off the pace. The performance may not have been up to Raga's normal level, but he would still finish the season in the manner to which he's become accustomed. With the title already decided, the main focus of interest for the event was the battle for 2nd place overall. Dougie Lamkin, a 7 times former outdoor champion, was looking to edge ahead of reigning champion Takahisa Fujinami in the standings. Lamkin came into the event in 3rd place overall, just 4 points behind his Japanese rival. The Briton boosted his chances of taking the runner-up spot by finishing the Belgian Grand Prix in 2nd place. With a final total of 48 penalty points, Lamkin picked up just 1 more penalty than Raga. A 4th place finish would have seen Fujinami finish level with Lamkin in the standings on 218 points. So the outgoing champion was aiming for a place amongst the top 3 that would secure his place as runner-up. Fujinami failed to force his way into contention for victory, but a total of 50 penalty points would be more than enough to seal 3rd place on the podium. Spain's Tony Bowe finished in 4th place with 59 points, and his compatriot Albert Kabastani took 5th with 64. Those positions were reversed in the final standings, where Kabastani finished 4th ahead of Bowe in 5th. Raga will be the man to beat, both indoors and out, in 2006. One of the closest outdoor trials this season came to a fitting conclusion with Raga on top of the podium. But with Fujinami and Lamkin, followed by talented youngsters Bowe and Hironi Fajardo, Raga will have to be at his best if he's to defend his titles next season. So, whether you're starting an international incident or just playing tag in Turkey, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.